Welcome to your basic yoga class today. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. This is a series that's going on for a month. We're on day 16, so we're halfway there. Maybe a little longer after that, depending on how we are all staying in place. And today will be a basic yoga class for low back pain or low back discomfort or strength, what have you. If you've never taken one of my classes before, you can do whatever you want during this class. You don't have to listen to a single thing I say, especially since you're in your own home. But if something is causing you any discomfort or pain or doesn't really feel right, then try to modify it. Do something different, try activating your muscles even more, or coming out of the pose a little bit, or moving something. The point of yoga isn't to find pain in our bodies, it's to try to cultivate freedom. So see if you could modify things around. If something's not working, feel free to send me an email or a chat or just comment, and I am happy to try to help you however I can. So for today's class, you will need a chair or a bench, something about knee height, and you will need a block. My block here today is a book. So anything that's a few inches wide, you can also use a puzzle box or a helmet, or just get creative in your house. It could be a pillow folded in half, just something you could put between your legs. And we will start on that chair, laying on our backs, with the backs of our knees up against the chair. Could also be a couch. So the legs are about at this 90 degrees at the hips, 90 degrees at the knees. And placing your hands on the sides of your rib cage. We'll start by just taking a few breaths here. With our hands on our body, it's easy to see where our breath goes. So first, just notice if your breath moves your hands at all. And then try to actively bring your breaths in towards your hands. So they're on the sides of your rib cage. And see if you could move your hands out and away from your body, like your breath is making this big balloon inside of you. And this is called diaphragmatic breathing. And in the physical therapy world, this is one of the first things that we'll give to somebody or practice with somebody if they're having any low back pain. So not only is your breath expanding your hands side to side, but it's also gently massaging your low back here. Maybe you feel your low back, your mid back also expanding towards the ground on your inhales. And feel more breaths here. And just allowing gravity to do its thing to release your low back here. Allowing your sacrum, that very bottom of your spine between your hips, to just sink and melt and spread into the ground. And allowing yourself permission to be fully here with your body for the next 30 minutes. Committing to not thinking about what you need to do after or what you could be doing instead. Just committing to being here now with your body. With that, bend your left knee in towards your chest and grab behind your left thigh. If you need to lift your chin or chest off the ground to do that, then find a shirt you can wrap behind your leg and grab onto either side with. And from here, bend your leg, pointing your toes towards your nose, and then straighten the leg towards the sky, pointing your toes towards the ceiling. So we bend and flex the foot, we straighten and we point the toes. Just taking an easy movement back and forth. The leg doesn't need to come all the way straight here, especially if that means that you feel any strain in the low back or have to lift your head. This is a type of nerve glide we do to try to free up the sciatic nerve that comes down the back of our leg, splits into multiple little branches. Bending, flexing the foot, straightening, pointing the toe. And taking a few more, keeping a little space between your low back and the ground here. And to make sure we're getting that nerve and we're not bringing in the tissue of our low back. Good. Resting the left leg back down on the chair. Grab behind the right thigh, same thing. Bend toes to the nose. Move towards straight, point the toes. Back and forth. When we come to our mats to learn to notice what's going on inside of our body. Can you just notice how one ankle is different than the other? Or maybe doing this on one side seems like it does a little something more for you than the other. Just information to learn about our bodies. Keeping that tiny little space at the low back so I could shine a flashlight underneath there. A few more. Good. Moving away from your chair now. Find that book. If you thought you didn't need the props, maybe pause the video now and find them. And that book comes between your upper thighs. Hands come behind the head here. And then the right hand reaches to the outer left thigh. Squeeze your legs in on the book. And on an exhale, we always move on the exhale here. Lift up, diagonally reaching that left arm, or right arm rather, towards the outside of the left leg. Hold it here for a breath in. And moving on the exhale, we lower back towards the ground. See if you could keep the shoulders lifted. Inhale. Exhale, lifting up. Holding for a breath in, squeezing on that book, and exhale, lowering down. Breath in. Exhale, we move. Inhale, we hold. Exhale, we move back down. 2 more with your own breath. This is activating this group of muscles that run diagonally on the front of your body, called your anterior oblique sling, if you care. And these muscle synergies across the body, find one more if you've already gone through 2, can help stabilize across your low back, across your belly. Right hand behind the head, left hand reaches to outer right thigh. Inhale, exhale, lift it up. 1 breath in, exhale, lower down. Finding a few more with your own breath, exhaling always to lift or lower, and inhaling to hold wherever you are. And take care that you are engaging your inner thighs or squeezing in on the book. And also that you're reaching for a diagonal. So you feel like that left shoulder is going over to the right side of the body. Finding 1 or 2 more. Okay. And then keeping the book between the legs, open the arms to a T. Scoot the hips over to the left and then drop the legs down towards the right, coming into a spinal twist. This feels like too much on your left shoulder. Bring your fingertips to your shoulder and just allow the arm to be lifted off the ground. The book between our legs takes care that the left knee stays stacked on top of the right knee and it doesn't start to slide. This way we begin to twist in our mid back instead of our low back. And so often we twist from that lower back, but it's really not what it wants to be doing. See if you could bring breaths back into the side of your waist here. And on your next exhale, bring the legs back up towards the middle. This time, the hips scoot over towards the right. The legs drop down towards the left. And that's just to try to line up our right hip with our right shoulder here. So if you need to re-scoot and reposition, go for it. And again, that's just to bring the twist more into our middle back, so that we're not always loading our sweet lumbar spine or low back. And as you send breaths into the sides of your ribs, you can soften your eyes. You can notice what emotions come up as you begin to move your body, as you begin to focus on an area like your low back. And just noticing, just wondering, that's curious. On an exhale, legs come back up towards the middle. Removing the book out, rolling over onto your side. You can move the chair out of the way. Move the book out of the way. And make your way onto all fours. Finding a few rounds of cat and cow here on all fours. If you've never done that before, on an exhale, you curl everything under like you're crawling up into a little ball. And on an inhale, you extend one vertebrae at a time, finishing with the head into this big old arch position. I will challenge you today as you inhale into this extended position and exhale into this curled position to see if you could find a little more movement somewhere in your back that doesn't move as much. And that's usually between our shoulders. And we usually move a little much at our low back. It might not be you, but that's typically the patterns that we see. We'll also work today with creating a nice healthy tension throughout our body. So here we can do that by trying to pull our hands and our knees together, even as we're moving our body away from itself. Take two more. And see how that action of pulling hands and knees together helps feel like your abs are a little more engaged without having to try. Good. And find a neutral spine somewhere between that cat and cow position. Reach the right foot back behind you, toes stay on the ground. And just take a little rock back and forth here, pressing that heel back, reaching the crown or tippy top of your head forwards. Still feel like your hands and knees are trying to pull together. And with that feeling, lift the right leg up so it's parallel to the ground. Drop the right hip down a little closer to the floor. Maybe, just maybe, you lift the left fingertips off the ground, or you reach the left arm out in front of you. It could just be on the mat in front of you or up towards your ear. And imagine your right hand and left knee are trying to pull towards each other. On exhales, imagine the hips drawing a little closer together. And exhale, bring the hand down, bring the knee down. Other side, reach back through the left heel, left toes on the ground. Take a little rock back and forth. When you're first starting yoga, or if you've been doing a lot of yoga, it can feel like a lot on your wrists. So if you want to take fists with your hands, bringing your knuckles to the ground, I will demonstrate that, and always an option to do so. Lovely. Now feeling like your hands or your knuckles are pulling towards your knee, lift the left leg up here. And only lift it so far as you don't really feel any like ping or pain or any pain really in the low back. If you do start to feel something, roll your left hip down towards the ground a little more. From here, the right arm can just reach off the ground, out in front of you, or up towards ear height. If you're up towards ear height, turn the palm towards the ceiling. Imagine that right knee and left hand are scissoring towards each other here. One more breath in. Exhale, hands down, knee down. Last thing here on our knees, switching sides once again, the right leg reaches back towards hip height. This time, bend that right knee so the right heel begins to kick towards the butt. And this is that kind of active resistance we talked about. So really imagine that the heel wants to kick the butt, but it's almost like you're pushing it away. If it's available to you, try to reach your left hand back towards that heel and press heel into hand, hand into heel. That might be a little much for some people, so you can just imagine that your hand is pressing into that heel. Or the whole back of your leg is fired up strong here. Gather the front of the ribs together, like the front of the rib cage is lifting up and away from the ground. So while it can be basic yoga, I often end up the most tired after these classes because we're finding all these beautiful micro engagements and adjustments of the muscles. Exhale, bring the knee down. Inhaling, left leg lifts back behind you, making sure both front of the hips are facing down towards the ground. Bend the left knee. You don't bend it all the way, you're bending it towards about 90 degrees. Everything touching the ground, press into the ground a little bit so you lift a little higher away from the ground. Maybe that right hand reaches back for the heel and you press heel into hand, hand into heel, twisting a bit. Or maybe you just feel that heel wanting to kick the bum, but you not letting it. Filling your body with big, easy breaths. Exhaling, the left knee comes down. Tuck the toes underneath you and come to sit back on your heels. And if you're like, oh, heck no, that's the most painful thing I've ever done, just come back a little bit, as much as you feel like you can tolerate. And if that looks like you're still on all fours, that looks like you're still on all fours. That's okay. And this is a stretch to help elongate the plantar fascia in the bottom of our feet. And a pose where I could take off my sweater. When you've had enough of that, untuck the toes, tap the top of the feet on the ground like little flippers. From here, tuck those toes under and lift your knees up off the ground. Feel like your heels and your bum want to kick up to the sky. With that engagement in the back of your legs, bring your weight back towards your heels so your hands, or rather your ears, come between your upper arms here. This is the start of our downward facing dog. From here, maybe, just maybe, you begin to lift your legs a little more towards straight. But keep a little attention on your low back. When you went to straighten your legs, did your low back curve? Did you feel like you kind of turtled with your head? If so, keep that bend in your knees and try to stick your bum up and back away from you. Like you're spreading your bum wide. Yeah. Option to drop one heel to the ground and then the other. And gently playing around in this space. Feeling out the blueprint that your body's laid out for you today. We won't do too many down dogs in this class. So we're focusing a little more on the low back and strengthening it. But take just one more breath here. Lovely. And on an exhale, step the leg forward. You could either just step it on forward or bring your knees down and then left foot steps forward. You can fold over your mat or bring a blanket or pillow under that right knee if it feels intense on it. And scissoring inner thighs together, lift the arms up overhead, low lunge. And see if you could bring your weight back over that back hip. Often people think we just want to go as low as we can here. We're going to find strength across the front and back of our hips here instead. So feel like your left heel wants to kick back, right knee wants to drag forwards. Clasp your hands on top of your head and try to push your head up into your hands. Feel how this narrows the sides of your waist a little bit together and you grow up even taller. Keep that as the arms lift up overhead. Exhaling, hands to the ground. Step back through all fours or down dog. And stepping the right foot forward, come into a low lunge. Scissor the inner thighs together. Legs are so strong. Arms rise up overhead. The strength of our legs is really what helps reset our low back in this practice. So feel like you're dragging your mat to be a little shorter. Exhale, hands frame the front foot. Tuck the back toes under and come back for down dog once again here. Finding that position where the knees are bent and the inner thighs lift up and back. This feels like a little much for your shoulders. See if you could feel like you're smearing your hands, like your pinkies want to reach in towards the center of your mat. That way, armpits lift up and away from the ground and you press the mat away from you. Lovely. On an exhale, slowly walk your feet to the front of your mat. Take a big bend in your knees to bring your fingertips to the ground. And shake the head slowly, no. Nod the head slowly, yes. And bring your hands to your outer shins. Press your shins into your hands and your hands into your shins so you feel your arches lift up and away from the ground. Knees can be as bent as needed here. Inhale, lengthen the spine a bit, looking out in front of you. Exhale, fold the spine. Rise up one vertebrae at a time, beginning to straighten your legs as you come to stand. Roll the shoulders back and down and standing. And place your palms facing forwards towards the front of your mat and take a look down at your feet. Notice if your feet are in line with each other, if it feels better if one's in front of the other, just noticing kind of where your body's at. And press down through your big toe mound, your little toe mound, and your heel. Like there's two triangles on the bottom of your feet. Lift and spread the toes. Place them back down. With those strong feet, inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Grab onto the left wrist and side bend over to the right. Legs stay right where they are as you breathe into the side of the body. And out. Inhale, back up to the middle. Grab onto the right wrist, reach up and over to the left. Staying here for a breath. Coming back up to the middle. Grabbing onto the left wrist one more time, up and over to the right. Imagining maybe that you still have that book between your inner thighs and you're squeezing in there. Inhale, back up to the center, switching sides one more time. Grab the right wrist, reach up and over to the left. Inhaling back up to the middle. This time, bend the knees, sit the bum back behind you, chair pose. Ideally, that bum sits super far back so you could see your toes here. Now pretend like you're doing a chin up here. So bring your elbows about towards shoulder height and imagine the elbows want to touch down to the knees. Feel how that naturally engages the sides of your waist here. So you're not sucking in your abs, but this feeling like you're pulling yourself up just naturally does it for you. At the same time, imagine your heels want to kick your bum here. Activating down the front and back of our bodies. Exhale, come to stand. Inhale, lift the arms up to the sky. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold, bending the knees as the hands come to the ground. Inhale, extend the spine long. Exhale, fold forwards again. Rise to stand one vertebrae at a time, arms circle up to the sky. Exhale your hands down through your heart. Standing on the left leg, bring the right knee up towards hip height. And maybe you grab behind that leg if it's available to you. Or maybe you take a t-shirt and wrap it under that leg, holding either side. In a classroom, we would use a yoga strap. Regardless of what you have, imagine your thigh is kicking down into something. Send your hips back ever so slightly so you feel a tiny little arch in your low back. That's a neutral spine. Your spine, your low back, is supposed to have a little arch in it. So let it be there and then lift up through the back of your ribs. Wherever your hands are, bring them to the sides of your ribs now. And then corset them towards the front so you feel the front of your ribs softening towards each other. Exhale, release the right leg to the ground. Standing on the left leg. Standing on the right leg, left leg lifts. Knee towards about hip height, bent leg. You feel that triangle in the bottom of your foot pressing into the ground. Each action is an equal and opposite reaction. So as you press the foot down, can you feel the crown of the head grow higher? Maybe you bring your hands back to the top of your head and you press your head into your hands. Feeling the sides of your waist grow long. Exhale, bring the foot back to the ground. This time, actually grab your book again, placing it in between your upper thighs. Chair pose, send those hips back and down, squeezing in on the book here. This time, we'll bring our hands into prayer pose. And imagine that your hands want to press down to your belly button. Feel this nice, strong engagement along your spine as you're resisting the press of your hands down by growing taller here. Can your bum sink down even more while the crown of your head, your heart lifts up even more? Exhale, come to stand. Release the book off to the side and come to a nice wide-legged pose on your mat. Toes point towards the right side. And turn your left toes to the front of your mat, coming to warrior two on the left-hand side here. Ideally, the back of your foot is a little less than parallel to the back of your mat. So turn your right big toe a little more towards the front of your mat. See how that feels in your hips here. Press your feet down and away from each other as you lift your ribs up and away from your hips. You can even place these little shaka symbols on the sides of your hands, or the sides of your ribs rather, and grow up through your ribs, press down on your hips with your pinkies here. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, take a look. Noticing the pace of your breath here in Warrior Two. And exhale, straighten that left leg. Turn the left toes in, pointing towards the side. Turn the right toes out. So maybe you line your right heel up with the middle of your back arch. Maybe it feels better if you bring it more forwards or more backwards. We ideally start with it in the middle of that arch, and then if something feels funny, you can move that foot around, finding somewhere that works a little better for you. And find those triangles in the bottom of your feet and spread and press them into the ground. Lift those ribs up and away from the hips. Sink the hips down a little lower. And on an inhale, scissor the inner thighs together as you straighten the right leg. Turn the right toes in, turn the left toes out, bending once again through that left leg. This time we come towards side angle pose, Parsvottanasana. So bring the left hand to the left thigh and extend the right arm up overhead. Turn your palm of your hand towards your face. That just gives a little better shoulder alignment here. So your shoulder's not hugging your ear, but it's nice and relaxed down away from it. Press the right pinky toe down and away from you and begin to bend over towards that left side. Now ideally, you're strong enough in the sides of your waist here where you could lift that left arm forwards. And if you're not able to do so, probably don't go any further here because we're going to try to work on our strength today. Not just how far we can go, but how far we could support ourselves in going. So maybe forearm comes to thigh or hand comes to the ground, but as long as you're able to find strength enough there to reach the left arm forwards. If it feels like you're over-efforting somewhere, like maybe in that right or left foot, see if you could send the muscular energy somewhere else. So can you engage somewhere else that helps support that area? Exhale, rise on. Straightening the left leg. Turn the left toes in, turn the right toes out. Finding side angle pose on this side, bending that right knee. Right hand to the right thigh, left arm extends to the sky. Beginning to side bend towards the right, maybe forearm to thigh. If you do so, make sure you roll that right shoulder blade back and down here. Maybe you even use the pressure of your hand or your forearm to press your right thigh a little more towards the right side of the mat here. So a little more behind you. Providing some nice healthy tension or resistance. Exhale, rise back on up. Turn all 10 toes to the front and toe heel your feet back towards each other. Our last standing pose here, come back to the front of your mat. And standing on that left leg, bend the right foot, touch your hand back towards the right heel. If your hand doesn't touch your heel, just imagine that it does. Feel the magnetization between hand and foot. From here, begin to tip your weight a little forward. I don't want to say your torso is stiff as a board, but it's kind of that feeling. Like you're pressing your hand so much into your foot that your entire torso, your belly, your back is engaged here. This is the beginning makings of dancer's pose or Natyarajasana, but finding the strength in that back body that's needed. You could take a little bend in the standing leg if you need for support here. And exhale, release the leg, shake it on out. These are hard and great muscular actions here. So if you're feeling tired, it's completely normal. Bending the left leg, pressing heel into hand, hand into heel. If it doesn't reach, just imagining it does. Pressing those into each other, begin to tip the body forwards. Ideally, the left hip is still facing the ground here. You could take a bend in the right knee for support. And on an exhale, rise back on up. Shaking out the legs. Bringing the legs together this time. Imagining there's that book between your inner thighs, and you're trying to push the book back behind you. With that little Pez dispenser feeling, bend your knees, arms lift up towards the sky. One more time, chin up, our arms, imagining that you're lifting yourself up and out of your hips. Finding this nice eccentric or isometric length in your low back. On an exhale, as slow as you can, begin to fold to the ground, but keep feeling like you're lifting yourself up over that chin-up bar. Keep feeling that until your hands come towards the ground. Walk the feet back to a plank position. Option to drop the knees down for modified plank, kicking the heels towards the bum. Also option to come up onto those wrists or knuckles if the hands are feeling it. Taking about 10 breaths here. And feeling how strong your body is. Feeling how your heels try to reach back towards the back of your mat, while the crown of your head tries to reach long and forwards. Feeling the front of your body lift a little more into the back of your body. Feeling the power and beauty of this moment that you can find strength. That you could take in enough breath to feel alive. Exhaling, lower all the way to the ground. Taking knees, chest, chin if you need. And uncurl the feet. Pressing the big toes, second toe, third toe, every toe as much as you can into the ground. Roll the shoulder blades back and down. And pressing the feet, the hips down. Inhale, lift up, cobra pose. Exhale, release. Take the hands a little wider. Inhale, cobra pose, shoulders roll back and down. Exhale, release. With those strong legs, one more cobra pose. Hands a little wider, tent the fingers. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, release. This time, we'll bring our hands behind our head. And press your hands, or rather your head, back into your hands and lift up off the ground here. You might not lift up very much. That's because we're finding the arch and strength in our upper back, not so much our lower back. So see if you could press the front of the hips into the ground here. Maybe that helps you lift up a tiny bit higher. Press your head back into your hands. Elbows can drop towards the ground if it feels better. One more breath in. Exhale, release. Lay your left ear to the ground. Relax your arms by your side and breathe. Send a little breath into your low back. Bend your knees. Drop your feet down towards one side, then the other side. Just windshield wipering your legs here. Taking as much range or dropping as far as feels good for you. And then relaxing the legs back to the ground. Head comes back towards the middle. This time, reach your arms out in front of you. On a breath in, lift the right leg up, left leg up. Head can stay on the ground or press the back of the head up to the sky, tucking in the chin like you have a little grape underneath your neck. Or I guess underneath your chin onto your neck. Instead of feeling like your left hand and right leg are kicking the sky, feel like they're reaching really long away from each other. Exhale, release it down. Inhale, lift up left leg, right arm. Now we activate our posterior oblique sling, or that opposite synergy of muscles from the front of our body that work on the back of our body to help stabilize across the joint at our low back and hips, or our sacroiliac joint. Exhale, release. One more time each side. Inhale, lift up, right leg, left arm. Feeling the arm and leg reach long and away from each other more than up towards the sky. Like you're pulling strong length into the low back. Exhale, release. One more time, other side. Left leg, right arm reach long and away from each other. Exhale, we release. Bring your hands under your shoulders. Press back into child's pose. You can try with your legs together. Sometimes it feels a little easier to bring your big toes together and take your legs wide. Hips sink back towards the heels. Finding the child's pose that works for you and your body. Imagine you're sending your breath into your low back. Imagining you could expand your low back with each inhale. And allow its fibers to rest and chill out on each exhale. And then slowly make your way onto your back. Maybe laying back on your tummy and turning over onto your back. Bending your knees up towards hip height. Place two fists side by side in between your legs. Squeeze in on your fists with about 30% of your effort for 3, 2, 1. Hands come to outer legs. Press your hand into your legs for 3, 2, 1. Once again, fists in between the legs, pressing in. 3, 2, 1. Outer legs pressing out. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Bring your feet to the ground for a bridge pose here. Turn your hands up to the sky. Ideally, your heels should be right about where your fingertips should graze it and scoot it out a few inches. It's different for everybody. We're all different proportions. That's what works best for me. Roll your shoulders back and down and press them into the ground. Roll up one vertebrae at a time, coming into bridge pose. Feel your heels kick back towards your bum. Your knees reach long and forward away from you. And since I'm imbalanced across my low back, I will do the side that's a little weaker here, and I will start to transfer my weight onto the left leg, lifting just maybe the tip of my right foot off the ground or lifting the right foot up. You could play with walking your feet back and forth, finding maybe the side that feels a little weaker and taking a few breaths there in a single leg bridge. If that's too much, forget about it. Just be on two legs. Exhale, lowering down. And grabbing behind the left leg. Finding what we found at the start of class. This time you could straighten your right leg if you like. Imagining your right foot is pushing into a wall in front of you. And then begin to straighten and bend that left leg. See if you could keep a little space at your low back. And if there's no way that you're able to do this, then bend your right leg. And you can just grab the front of the thigh as you begin to straighten and bend the left leg. And come to find a static hold. So hold it at the straightest you can here. And with a little arch in that low back, press the leg into the hands into the leg. So you're getting nice activation across the low back, just like you were in chair pose. Eventually press the leg so hard through the hands that the leg simply breaks through and reaches long out away from you. Grabbing behind the right thigh this time, same thing. Bending and straightening that right leg. Toes can be pointed, flexed, or alternate between the two. Find what feels appropriate for you. Arriving in a more straight position here, kick your leg into your hands. Feel that little lift of your low back away from the ground. Key thing here is that the back of your ribs or your low back, or your mid back rather, are still pressing down into the ground. So there's really just a lift at the low back. You're not sending it up higher in the back. Eventually kick your leg so hard into your hands that your leg breaks through and release it to the ground. Last pose for us today is happy baby. Since we work those inner thighs so much, bend the knees towards the chest, open the legs up and grab behind the thighs. That is just no way not happening. You can come into this Supta Baddha Konasana or this big old butterfly pose laying on your back, feet together, knees wide. Or if you love happy baby, you can grab the outer edge of your feet here. Because the low back just loves to respond to the stressors in our life, to release some stress here, we'll take 5 of the type of breaths, like you're blowing bubbles and water through your lips. So take a breath in through the nose, letting it out with the 4 more on your own. Allowing yourself to feel silly in the comfort of your home. 3 more. Release the tension through your face. Finding any last pose you like here. Maybe taking another twist with the back. Or just lowering your legs down into your Shavasana. And if you have a pillow handy, it might be nice to put it under the backs of your knees here. And then let yourself rest in this most important part of your practice. This part of your practice when you can't form words anymore. Letting the body wind down to the place where it's able to take all those new muscular engagements you made and label them as safe, as actions that lead to peace and comfort. resting your body. Allow your tongue to drop away from the roof of your mouth. Allow your cheeks to soften, your jaw to release. Space between your eyebrows to spread. And rest. Allowing whatever emotions come up to come up. And just watching. Watching the song of your body and your mind play out. You're welcome to stay here as long as you like. The light and love in me sees and honors the light and love in you. Namaste.